What if you could wake up right at the wilderness boundary by a trailhead in pristine nature, ready to hit the trail, wake up there in the mornings, work there, be able to do it 365 days a year if you like, never needing propane, never needing gasoline, doing it all completely off grid with solar, and being completely mobile and being able to work remotely while you're doing it. That's the kind of thing that I've been looking into. Apologies for no content for quite a while, but I just went deep for like 10 days and I thought I would share what I've found. So, a little backstory, I worked as a wilderness ranger. Even when I wasn't working as a wilderness ranger, I was still doing a lot of backpacking, and I just love it. I love being out, as far out as I can get, away from everyone, just in pristine areas that are still really wild and really beautiful, and just doing my thing. It feels really healthy. I can get really in tune with the natural, daylight rhythms. I find myself just going to bed at sunset naturally. I'm so sleepy I can't even stay awake. Whereas, living in civilization, I'm like wired until 4 a.m., like clicking. There's so much brain candy to just keep chasing after. And if you don't spend all day outdoors, how does your body get the proper signals that the day is ending? It's time to go to sleep. But anyway, if you never experienced, spending time 24 hours a day outdoors and what that feels like, you wouldn't really understand. But it's very powerful, and it just feels like a huge weight hitting you as that sun goes down. You're like, oh god, it's like you've been drugged. So anyway, all that aside, I'm just wanting to talk about what I've found as I've just gone really, really deep on into this subject. And like I said, a little bit of background, I'm a super nature nerd, and super hardcore. I've done 44-day backpacking trips solo without resupply in the wilderness. Pretty crazy stuff. And almost starved to death. That's another story for another day. But I've tried this kind of thing before. So the last attempt to do this, well, there's been two major attempts to do this. One, I bought some satellite internet setup called an iSavvy, right? This is before Starlink, and it was super expensive. I don't know. I dropped like $1,300 to buy this little device, and then it was a couple $100s a month. And the data was so limited. I mean, the data that I could use is like literally measured in megabytes, I think. Like, I would send a few emails to try to keep up with, just to keep in touch with my team. I work remotely. And, that would just eat up like a huge chunk, like 10-20% of my monthly allowance for data. It was super slow, and I was still carrying like solar panels to charge it up, bringing my laptop out into the wilderness. I mean, it was crazy. So we're trying to like kind of backpacking and actually, being on the move, being out in the wilderness, waking up and, packing up the tent and moving to a new location every day, covering a lot of ground. That's, in my experience, that's just like, that's the creme de la creme. Once you've done a lot of that and you've gotten comfortable doing that, and you felt all the health benefits of doing that, and the extreme fitness that you gain, it's kind of hard to settle for anything less than that. So, we tried to do that, but it just wasn't practical. The business suffered dramatically from my inability to stay connected, and it was just a mess. So that was kind of a bad experience trying to pull that off. We tried it again. We got a Suburban, and the three of us, my wife and her daughter, we're like living out of a Suburban, and we would set up a tent and camp every night. And we started in the winter, and we did this all winter. I think we made it like 110 days, and it was just rough. Anytime the wind was really bad, we couldn't cook because you can't use the stove in the wind, like your typical propane stove. And then the setup was like so dismal that sometimes it's just hard to like get in the mood when you can just hop in the car and go drive maybe 20-30 minutes to get some food. It's really hard to like, make another pot of pasta or whatever. So, there was, we went out to eat a lot. That got very expensive. There were times when it snowed and we just had to absolutely bail and go stay literally in a hotel. There's times it was so windy it ripped our tent, and we had almost $1,000 worth of gear damage trying to do this. So, the idea was going to be super, inexpensive and awesome. And it wasn't inexpensive at all. We ended up spending hundreds of dollars a month in campground fees, hundreds of dollars a month in hotels, probably an extra $500, $600, $700 a month. Going to restaurants more than we should have, and we just weren't saving any money at all compared to living in a normal house or apartment or something like that, living a normal life. So that was a big disappointment. We lasted, like I said, I think 110 days or so, and then we bailed. And part of it was that I was able to keep up with my work, and the way that we did it this time is instead of trying to get internet out in the wilderness, we stayed mostly like in campgrounds and places where we got cell service. And then I would like sit in the driver's seat behind the wheel and like work on my laptop for like a couple hours. It was uncomfortable. It was, I don't know, it was kind of grim. My memories of trying to do it like that are, they're a little bit grim. But like I said, I'm used to doing it really rough, just backpacking and being out, like picking up all my stuff, carrying it all day, spending the night out and completely in the wild. And so the idea of doing that didn't seem too rough. Hey, we're going to be at campgrounds, we'll have showers. But like I said, it's to do it that way, it just wasn't. It ended up being actually kind of expensive, and it was way too rough of living to be to be not saving a dime. So anyway, flash forward to today, 2023, we now have Starlink. So for $150 a month, you can have Starlink and you can have internet anywhere. Starlink's great because you can pause the service. It's not an annual subscription. If you stop using it, you turn it off, you stop paying for it, you turn it back on, you start paying for it again, and you get really good internet. It's not the best internet, but it's going to be pretty good. So the whole iSavvy that I spent $1,200 on and was spending a couple $100 a month for literally like a few megabytes. Oh man, that was terrible. So this is a huge improvement. So this advance in technology makes it to where we can be out in the wilderness. Now, not out in the wilderness, but close to the wilderness border. By the way, for those of you who don't know, wilderness is like an official, land designation in the United States. No roads, no motorized vehicles, no motorized equipment whatsoever. When I worked for the Forest Service, we didn't even bring chainsaws back there to cut all the trees off the trail because no motorized equipment. We're that dedicated that we're bringing handsaws and axes back to cut all the trees that have fallen over the trail over the winter. We go up and cut 30, 40 trees on a 10-mile trail at least every year, and did it all by hand with those primitive tools. So it's pretty cool that that there's land that's designated to be that pristine, that untouched, that unfucked with. So yeah, you can't be in the wilderness, but you can be right up on the national forest or in BLM land, like right up by some trails, right on right up at the border of a wilderness area, and you could have pristine drinking water and be out there completely free. So there's no camping fees whatsoever. So if you have water and you can refill it while you're out there and refill your water so that you can take showers, so that you can wash dishes, so that you can just have water. I mean, I think we all know what the value of having running water is. But if you have running water out there, you have satellite connection, you have a refrigerator so you can refrigerate your food and you stay out for a really long time that way. You're not, you don't have a cooler and when it runs out of ice, you're screwed and your food starts to rot. Or limited to consuming only dry goods and things like that. Just the possibilities are quite incredible that you could be out there, potentially go load up at the grocery store, put it in your fridge, drive out for a couple hours, and find a free place to camp. Most stay limits are 14 days in the national forest and BLM lands and whatnot. So you stay for free for 14 days, do all the work you need to do on the computer using your Starlink, and you got solar panels and battery that keeps your fridge and electricity running eternally. You have heat and air conditioning if you want it, if you need it. I mean, obviously, if it drops below freezing, you need to turn the heater on so you don't have freezing of your water system. But yeah, I mean, you can have all that. You can have all that. And, you know, the only way to do it, you know, your typical like van won't take you down rough roads to get to those places. Your typical RV doesn't have a chance to make it to those places. Typical fifth wheel doesn't have a chance to make it to those places. Your average just, you know, rig that you buy from Camping World has no chance of getting there. So I was looking up, hey, you know, is there such thing as a off-road RV? Is there such thing as, you know, something that you could really take out there that has high clearance, that's small enough that can be pulled by a normal vehicle that also is capable of getting, you know, going over some pretty rough terrain? And there is, you know, there is. I'd never seen these before. It was a revelation. There's these companies like Black Series was the first that I found. Then I saw some people kind of saying that their quality wasn't so good. And then I found roamers, pause trailers, all this kind of stuff. And then Brooder. Holy shit, Brooder is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's like a luxury house that is on wheels, but those wheels have incredible suspension, and you can go over the roughest imaginable terrain with that thing. And it's just bulletproof. And then the solar that you have, not only is the solar good enough to keep the electricity running in that thing, but it's potentially big enough that your solar array and your battery system, that you could actually charge an electric vehicle out there. So to me, that's kind of like the ultimate dream, right? It's not that you could just like plug in your electric vehicle and charge it up from 0 to full in like 8 hours or 2 hours, like a supercharger or whatever. It's not like that. If you're camped out there for 2 weeks, if you only get, I don't know, 15 miles of charge added to your vehicle while you're out there, you know, 15 times 15 is 225. That's 225 miles that you've added. And as long as your distance to your next spot that you move to is less than 225, then potentially, you know, you never have to get gas ever again. You know, you never have to get gas. You never have to even plug it in. You're generating your own electricity for your vehicle as well. So to me, that's kind of like the ultimate dream. It's kind of like what I've always wanted, and the technology is there now. So we're actually taking a serious look at the possibility of doing that, either like 6 to 9 months a year, maybe traveling out of the country for 3 months, or you know, maybe 6 months, just depending, or I don't know, or maybe we keep traveling for a while. And you know, traveling like we're traveling right now is actually pretty inexpensive. I calculated that we've been at this place for about 5 weeks, and I calculated that we're on a pace where we would spend $21,000 an entire year living here, based on what we're spending on rent here through Airbnb and food. Like, it's cheap. We don't have a car. We haven't been really traveling around anywhere. Just been walking to the grocery store, going to an occasional restaurant, going on walks around town. And yeah, so it's incredibly affordable. And but I think we can do something that affordable, you know, out right there on the wilderness boundary. And I'm kind of thinking, damn, I don't know if I want to miss. I've already missed way too many Rocky Mountain summers. Not that we'd be exclusive to the Rocky Mountains. There's great mountains and places to go in Washington and Oregon and California and Canada. There's just plenty of places to go on the North American continent. But I mean, we could be right up on there in the middle of the summer. And I've just missed so many summers living in Florida, being stuck there for 12 years. We managed to get out there we were out west for 4 summers out of the 12 years we were stuck in Florida. So that's pretty good. But the 8 summers we missed hurt. I mean, that's a big deal to me, to be out there. It's my favorite thing to do in the world, to miss 8 summers out of the last 12 doing my favorite thing. And it's not like it's just my favorite thing. like I have a list of things that I like, and that you know, in all of life, all the things that I found, you know, it's kind of like my list of things I like is actually like 1 item long.
Do you know what the secret of life is? No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
So I don't have a bunch of likes and interests. I pretty much have one. And, being out hiking in the wilderness and all that stuff that's pretty much it. I've liked other things like snorkeling and skiing and things along those nature. I love, just, studying, reading, learning languages. I mean, I have hobbies, but nothing is quite on the same level or even close to it as my favorite of all hobbies. So the fact that we could do it super cheap and do it in relative luxury, really. I mean, I don't think we'll jump right into the super pimped out like Brooder, which is really expensive. We'd have to finance it, and then we'd be paying like, even for the one step down tier for the EXP7. I think the monthly payment plus insurance would still be over $1,500 a month, and that's pretty pricey. That's 15-year mortgage on that thing too. So that's that payment every month for 15 years. And unlike a house, at the end of those 15 years, you have something that you beat the hell out of that's worth hardly anything. Unlike a house, which is probably going to be worth a lot more, at the end of the 15 years than when you bought it. Especially if in the old intentionally inflationary economy we have in the United States. So anyway, that's it. It's pretty interesting. I'm thinking about doing it. Let me know what you think. Do you think we could pull something like this off and not like get sick of it in a year or two, bail, lose a bunch of money, and regret it? That's obviously my biggest fear, and I think that's what happens to most people who try this kind of thing. But I've been, I'm all about the van life craze, the tiny house craze, and the off-grid craze. There's kind of all three of these kind of, and obviously the digital nomad craze. I feel like I can wrap all four of these things together into one perfect package that fits me really well, and that's going to be great for my health and well-being. And hopefully make some good video content as well. So let me know what you guys think, and if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments. I'll answer questions. Like I said, I put in a good like 80 hours in the last 10 days, seeing what's out there and the pros and cons of all different types of off-road trailers and campers, and truck bed campers and cargo vans and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, peace.